Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined us for our three-day Metals and Mining Conference. Our next live presentation is from SilverX Mining. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Jose Garcia. He's the Chief Executive Officer and Director of SilverX Mining, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol AGXPF and on the TSXV under the symbol AGX. Welcome, Jose.
Hi, John. Thank you for having us. I'm very excited to be here. So thank you, everyone, for attending. Today, we are going to talk about SilverX, which I believe is a very particular silver company. We are a junior company in production and on a fast growth track operating in Peru. I'm going to give you a number of reasons why you should look at this company. But first, to start, I'm going to define the purpose of the company. SilverX was a company that was built over the last 6 years. We actually took it private about 4 years ago, with the aim to become a mid-tier producer in the silver space. We own a really significant silver district in central Peru, in which we started operation, in which we've grown a very large resource and continue to grow our resource. And as I said, I'm going to try to show you all the ingredients we got to become a mid-tier producer. SilverX is a company that offers great value to investors. I think at this point in time, we are trading below our peers, if you like, in terms of price versus NAV. And I'll give you a number of reasons why we believe the company is going to get on re-rating over the next few months. But primarily going to give you these three pillars on which I believe we can demonstrate our value. First, we are in production. It's not big production. We are producing, as we speak, about 1.25 million ounces of silver equivalent a year, with a clear plan to grow to 2 million ounces in the short term, but more importantly, to grow to more than 6 million ounces of silver equivalent in the next 3 to 4 years. And that was published on a PEA recently, just not even 30 days ago. More importantly, I'm going to talk about our assets. We've been growing our resource a number of times since we actually took this historic mining district. We've provided a number of updates because our exploration and resource strategy has been very successful. At this point in time, in terms of silver equivalent, just to have approximate, we are above 150 million ounces of silver equivalent. And we believe that in this district, we are just scratching the surface. We are going to keep on growing these results over the years. It's one of these massive vein fields that will continue to give ore for decades and even centuries. And beyond our production and ore, the resources we have in our vein field, there's a number of targets that we have in our district. Needless to say, we have more than 200 veins. Those veins actually outcrop for hundreds of kilometers on surface. But there is different targets here. There is disseminated gold, another target, as I will explain, that will emphasize the value of the company. I think we're having great times for silver. I don't need to spend a lot of time telling investors why silver is finally taking a position that we all have been waiting for just many years. And we believe that with the global imbalances that we're having, or they say the global economy, silver will continue to follow gold. We've seen basically almost $50 silver this week, and we are very bullish that this is going to continue. The leverage you get in small producers with a big resource as SilverX, I think, surpasses most of the peers in the market. And Peru has been producing silver since centuries. We are the largest concentration of silver resources on Earth. We are the second largest producer of silver after Mexico. And there is a lot of evidence that a lot of silver resources will continue to come from this country. And I'm going to show you why this silver district will likely become a really renowned silver project in LATAM. We are in central Peru in the area of Huancavelica, which is slightly south of the capital city of Lima. We operate in very high elevation, which is typically above 4,000 meters in our district. We own a very significant land package that we've divided in 3 mining areas. We have a mill that is working as we speak, and it's located at the center of the district. You can see that. And it's got a nameplate capacity of 720 tons a day. We intend to scale that up to basically twice that capacity and to build a new mill to give life to this mining complex as we envision it. At the moment, we are operating a mine. It's called Tangana. It's at the north end of that district, and we are producing approximately 500 tons a day of very good grades. In that area of Tangana, we've got a large portion of our resources, all concentrated on a number of veins I will show you in detail. But on top of that, we've identified 2 very important areas. The Plata mining unit, which actually contains almost half of our resource, and more particularly because it's not just significant in terms of tonnage, but it's actually higher grade. And we envision that coming into production in the next 2 years. And then red silver or ruby silver is an area of very high grade of silver that we intend to drill over the next few weeks, and hopefully we'll start production as silver prices continue to rise. But the idea here is that we have a number of mining fronts, and we are envisioning a company going from the current 500 tons a day, 600 tons a day, actually to 3,000 tons a day by 2028. That's a 5x growth. And as I said, we published that a few days ago, just in early September. At that point in time, SilverX is what we call that mid-tier producer. If you look at the detail of each of the mining areas, what I try to show here is that each of those mining areas takes relevance on its own, on their own. Plata is really higher grade, and is today more than 40 million ounces of silver equivalent. Whereas red silver, which is the highest grade in the district, is already in the neighborhood of 30 million ounces of silver equivalent. If you put all of that together, there is some evidence to believe that each of these mines will be very significant, particularly Plata, which I believe might become one of the best silver mines in Peru. We published the first PEA 2 years ago, in 2023, when we just projected Tangana to become a 4+ million ounces silver equivalent producer. With a new PEA that we launched a month ago, we are now projecting more than 6 million ounces a year over 14 years, with peaks of up to 1 million ounces of silver equivalent. I think that's the real value of the company and what investors should be looking at. This is a compiled resource that include different areas. The reason why I displayed them separately is to try and understand both the value in terms of tonnage or concentration of metals and the high grade. Reality is that SilverX got a very good resource, a resource that is meant to be very profitable. And as I said earlier in the presentation, something that will continue to grow over the next few years. For those investors that are following the company, they must be aware that just a few weeks ago, we raised a total of $21.5 million Canadian dollars. And that money is going to be very well used, and part of it will be used to strengthen our resource, which is not only increasing it in terms of the inferred, but improving the category of that resource so we can move faster towards that 3,000 tons a day scenario. In terms of talking about our district, this is a historic mining district. It's been known for hundreds of years, since imperial times, and it's been operated at a very small scale for a long time. It was overlooked for a number of reasons, but now it's taking shape. And one important piece of news that happened just about 6 months ago is that a private company, a neighboring company, was taken over by Endeavour Silver, a company with similar resources. It was larger in terms of throughput. It was more invested over the last few years, but it was taken for approximately $250 million Canadian, $175 million USD. That was a terrific endorsement to our district, and actually it shapes up or underlines the value that this district is going to become surely a 12 to 15 million ounces producer in years to come. The kind of mineralogy or the kind of geology we exploit is very standard. For those who are familiar with these vein fields, it's typical epithermal system of low to intermediate sulfidation. And all these veins are typically vertical or subvertical with widths of approximately 1 to 2 meters, on average 1.5 meters. Those veins are rather particular because they can go on a strike for up to 4 kilometers. They typically have a very significant vertical extent. In our case, in this part of central Peru, we've already proven that those veins actually go for more than 1,000 meters in vertical. All the mining methods we apply are rather conventional. We apply is fully mechanized. It's fully mechanized, it's cut and fill and sub-level stoping. And the metallurgy is also very conventional. We have a flotation process through which we produce two concentrates. A lead concentrate containing silver, gold, and lead, and a zinc concentrate. This snapshot that you can see here is probably just not even 10% of our district, and is 100% of the operations today. Tangana will become a significant mine. As we said, just in the PEA we did in 2023, we projected Tangana to 1,500 tons a day, which is half of our production for the next 14 years. And Tangana looks like this. This is a 3D model in which you can see we are operating just one vein, starting to operate the second vein. But more importantly, there is, as you know, you can see the model turning around. You can see a number of veins that are inferred in all those colors, and trying to explain the immediate potential of Tangana to multiply production across those veins. That's one of the objectives of the company. We're going to start doing that now in 2026, and Tangana should grow organically to reach that nameplate capacity of 1,500 tons a day in the next 2 years. When you look at the lateral view of Tangana, as you can see there, imagine we are mining just 2 veins to the right-hand side, and there's a number of veins to the left. Our idea here is that we are going to be very smart drilling and very fast development, so we can actually multiply mine headings and expand production imminently. SilverX started production about 2.5 years ago in early 2023. Being a small company is difficult in terms of achieving budgets and achieving production, but despite that, and with the very limited availability of capital, we managed to produce over the last 2 years. For many quarters, we were competing with much larger mining companies in terms of our costs. As you can see on that graph, the cost has been fluctuating in between $19 and $26, $27 for most of the time. The cost is recently going up because with the silver price going up, the silver equivalent plays a role there. But reality is that we've managed to make money at a national level, let's say project level, for now long, which was exciting. Now we're taking advantage of prices. With the money we just raised, we are working on efficiencies, and we hope to reduce that all-in sustaining cost dramatically over the next few quarters. But reality is that SilverX is managed to get production at a small scale, and our aim is to increase this capacity by a number of times. I'm going to review the PEA numbers because that 3,000 tons a day scenario that we published is talking about a very competitive project. 14 years mine life with more than 6 million ounces a year at a very competitive cost. As you can see, the all-in sustaining cost that is estimated under $16 per ounce of silver, which is really good. And there is a cash cost between $11 and $12 per ounce of silver. With a pre-production CapEx of slightly above $80 million, we can have an NPV of more than $400 million. And that's a very competitive scenario. I think in today's market, it is not easy to find silver projects that are this competitive. As I said, $82 million pre-production CapEx, more than $400 million NPV. And it's something we are going to do in a brownfield fashion, which means we are in operation, we'll continue to grow organically, we'll have a second mill, and eventually 2 mills and 3 mines. That's the mining complex we envision and that we are going to implement over the next 2 years. This is a snapshot on our Plata mining unit. And Plata was a mine that was operated at a small scale in the early 2000s. The good news about Plata, we call it Plata because it means silver in Spanish, because it's high grade. On this area, on this mining unit, as we call it, we actually built data on 30,000 meters of drill core, thousands of underground samples, and we came up with a very competent resource. It's very significant. It's more than 6.5 million tons of high-grade ore, and the asset is basically opened in every direction. It's left, right, and also at depth. Needless to say that all these resources are calculated on just a bunch of veins. As I said earlier in the presentation, we've identified more than 200 veins in our district. In the case of Plata, there's more than 50, and the resource is calculated on basically 5 veins. So that's the reason why I said that Plata will become a very relevant silver mines over the next few years and will continue to grow. We are projecting to extract up to 1,500 tons a day from this mine. This is a long section of that project, and you can see some white voids, which is the small mining that took place 20 years ago. Reality is that the quality of the resource is outstanding in terms of the variography of the geostatistics, and the continuity of the ore shoots is also fantastic. Particularly if you want to look for the good grades, look at anything that is red or pink. And I think that's the real value of Plata. This is just one vein. We call it Esperanza 2001. But as I said, there is a number of veins. They're all parallel. And we intend to build this project in the next 2 years to achieve full-scale production by 2028. Next to Plata, and in our district, on the broad, there's a number of targets that are just not the typical veins. Polymetallic veins are basically our resource, our short and medium-term plans, but reality as a company that is doing exploration actively is that we are targeting also gold targets. In particular, is the Victoria target, which is a 3.5 by 3 kilometers anomaly, is what we call typically a high sulfidation environment, and on which we intend to do drilling hopefully in the next year. This project is greenfield, so we don't promote it largely because as a producer, we tend to avoid talking too much about exploration, but reality is that projects like these bring the opportunity to be a game changer. There's gonna be a binary kind of exploration, but if we find one of these projects, the value of the company will change dramatically. SilverX started production early on. We've been in the district for the last 7 years, as I said, with commercial production for the last 2.5 or 3 years. And reality is that we have very good relationships with our communities. Our land package covers 2 different communities, and with one of them, we've got a 12 years agreement. That's very long term. Actually, there's 11 years left. And with the other communities, a 15 years agreement signed last year. So there's 14 years left. Basically, it covers all of our life of mine, or almost all of it. I think there is very few companies in Peru that can say that they've signed 2 agreements of this kind over the last few years. But more importantly, we provide a number of opportunities. Pretty much every service we engage in our operations come from the very local communities, and 65% of our workforce also come from the communities. So basically, if I have to summarize what we do, what we've done in terms of resources, production, and growth, I'm going to summarize also the catalyst that you should see in SilverX over the next few months. And first, let's go back to the daily operations. We want to maintain and increase capacity, improve cash flows, reduce cost. The moment we reach those 720 tons a day, we are adjusting our cost. We are working on dilution to actually make sure that we mine with good margins. And we intend to take our all-in sustained cost to $23 per ounce of silver equivalent. We're working on a number of permits that will allow that 3,000 ton scenario to happen in the next 3 years. We're in the final stages of an environmental impact study for Tangana, and we're expecting approval of that in the next quarter or 2 quarters. At that point in time, we are ready to build a new mill right at the portal of the Tangana mine. And the existing mill, the Recuperada mill, will be expanded by 2x to reach the same 1,500 tons a day. We expect approval in 2026, 2027, again, just to get to 2028 with 2 mills, 3,000 tons a day combined capacity. The PEA that we published a few weeks ago summarizes all of that. Please visit that document. It's going to be filed in the next few days, and you've got all the numbers on the presentation. And again, we're going to keep on exploring that. We are 150 million ounces of silver equivalent. This is going to grow. We'll probably double that in the next few years. We'll probably triple that. Reality is that this is a project for the long term. Finally, we'll make some comments on the corporate aspects of the business. My name is Jose Garcia. I'm the CEO, director, and I think more importantly, one of the founders of the company. I'm a mining engineer of global experience, and I've been engaged with the company since the beginning, 7 years ago. We have David Glade, our CFO. He's a U.S. national with residence in Peru. He joined the company a year and a half ago. And we have 2 more directors. Francis Johnson, based in London, he's the representative for Baker Steel Resources. It's our largest shareholder with approximately 9 or 10% of the stock. And Daryl Cardy, independent director in British Columbia, Canada. Today, and after the capital raised we did a few weeks ago, we actually have a market capitalization of about $140 million Canadian. I think our share price today is around 50 cents approximately. As I said, in terms of insiders or major shareholders, with Baker Steel with almost 10% of the stock, and myself, I am the second largest shareholder. And reality is that I can see a lot of re-rating potential based on those catalysts that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. If you want to read some of the very interesting analyst reports, I invite you to read Fundamental Research or Red Cloud Securities, both of them giving us a price target in between 80 cents and $1, which I think should happen in the very short term. And that's it. I think I was concise enough. Now we're going to have a period of Q&A, and very happy to engage with investors on that. So I'm going to start answering questions. I can see here Edgar Everett asking me, what is the timeline? Hold on, I'm going to expand that. Number 2, Edgar Everett. What's the timeline and key permitting milestones for expanding Tangana to 1,500 tons a day and Plata in production by 2027? In terms of Tangana, as I mentioned, we are in the final stages of an environmental impact study. We expect approval within Q4 or Q1. We're working hard to reach that deadline, and that means that a few months after that approval, we'll be able to build the new mill. The good news about Tangana being in operation today is that the mining development or the growth of that mine will happen organically. Will happen over the next 2 years. Let's say while we build the plant, build a new tailings facility, the mine will be expanded gradually. I have no doubts that Tangana will be at that capacity by 2028 as projected on the PEA. There's another question here from Jeffrey Horn, who is asking, what are the drivers for your low all-in sustaining costs and how sustainable is 15.8? Well, there's 2 things here, mostly economics of scale. As a small company operating at a fifth of that capacity, you still have, a relatively heavy corporate cost, and all associated costs, say exploration and the like, also come on heavy on the all-in sustaining cost. When you expand throughput, most of your fixed costs get adjusted, but more importantly, you are able to lower your mining costs, your processing cost by improving your productivity. Internally, we have a plan that we call the Plan 100, which means that the cost of mining, processing, plus the sustaining capex of our company should be around $100 per ton. We're slightly above that. We're about 125, 130. Why 100? That's a moment when we consider that we are reaching the excellence of operating underground mines. Now, for that excellence, we also need a bit of size. And that critical size is what we are going to be working on over the next few months. As I said, SilverX has been not a great producer because you can see now, sustained cost throughout the months or throughout the quarters that we've been having hiccups on the way. But reality is that we've managed to take this mine forward without real investment in it, and we've been able to compete. The growth is going to bring us a lot of stability. There's another question from Eric Lensky. What are the catalysts for the re-rating of SilverX? I just mentioned there's going to be resource expansion, going to strengthen the value of that 3,000 tons a day scenario, going to keep on reporting better financials, improvements, efficiencies in our operation, making sure we can make steady cash flow. Investors want to hear they are not going to get diluted. I think those are the key items. On top of that, we'll have permitting, we'll have a number of items that will underline that value. Also, in terms of the market perception, I think SilverX is now finally being better positioned. For a number of years, let's say since basically going public, there were fears in investors that they could get diluted further. I think those fears are going away. Now our biggest aim as a management team is to make sure we actually re-rate the company rapidly, that we bring non-dilutive financing for the growth of the project, and that we can see this stock at a much higher price. I cannot make any promises, let alone forecast, but I would like this share price to be at least twice within the next quarter. Actually, I can tie this into the next question from Kevin Narden, who is asking, how do you plan to fund the $82 million US for initial capex? Well, there's a number of considerations there. As I just mentioned, I intend this to be non-dilutive. So hopefully we'll not have to raise equity for that. And we already started to work with a Canadian bank to look at a combination of different instruments, primarily debt, and that might be coupled with streams, other type of facilities to make sure we build that. But also, there is a chance that we don't build that in just a single operation, but we stage that in 2 steps. As I said, the Tangana mine is growing organically. Now we have a mill that is operating. So we're going to find the best path to grow production steadily. Okay. So there's a chance that these 3,000 tons a day, 5x growth will be built in 2 different stages, but all of them, we aim to be producing more than 6 million ounces by 2028. That's a lot of pressure on our shoulders. And obviously, that's something I believe we're going to be delivering on. I don't see more questions. If anyone has more questions, I read 5 questions, actually 4 questions. I answered 4 of them. There's a new question coming from Dave Klein. Any new laws or regulatory developments in Peru that could materially impact permitting, royalties, or mining operations? Not to my knowledge. Peru, I believe, is one of the best mining jurisdictions in the Americas. Certainly, it's been a mining country forever. For those who might actually have an opinion on country risk, I think Peru has never had any anti-mining moves, really, other than bigger projects that were in troubles at some point for a number of different reasons. But reality, this is a real mining country. In terms of permitting and regulation, I think the country has slowed down over the last 10 or 15 years. Hopefully, if there is changes going forward, is something that will make this more expedite. So all mining companies are putting hopes on the existing government or any upcoming government next year to make this easier. But in the case of SilverX, I think the beauty is that we are in production and that we've done our homework. As I said, we are in the final stages of that environmental impact study. So I don't anticipate any problems going forward. And there is a last question, because there's only 1 minute left, from Tyson Okesi, Amerigold Partners. Does SilverX trade purchase gold and silver doré? No, we produce concentrates. We produce lead and a zinc concentrate. The lead concentrate contains silver, gold, and lead in order of value, and we produce a zinc concentrate. We are engaged with Trafigura. We sell our concentrate at the Lima port, the capital city, and our expansion scenario, both plants, the existing mill and the new mill, are free for offtakes, and we are looking into that, as I said, for that non-dilutive financing of our growth. And I think it's 1:30. John, I'm not sure we have time for more questions. But I don't see more questions coming through.